Are you ready to jump into some true crime docs, crime thrillers, and more? Check out our website for an extensive list of our favorite movies and shows at thesirenspodcast.com/whatwewatch and find our favorite true crime and thriller books and authors, some covered on the show, at thesirenspodcast.com/author alley. You can even find special deals for Amazon Music, Audible, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, Showtime, and even Grubhub. If you're looking to jump in immediately, check out our pinned Facebook post for some streaming service free trials on us.
Welcome to 20 Minute Missing and Murdered, where we share a true crime in under 20 minutes. In these segments, we will be sharing information on missing people and cold cases from all over the Oklahoma area. This podcast contains explicit content, so listener discretion is advised. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely the views of the hosts and do not reflect the views of affiliates, associates, or sponsors of this podcast. And now, here's your guest host from Oklahoma Cold Cases.
My name is Amanda Newland Davis, and I am with Oklahoma Cold Cases. Oklahoma Cold Cases is a platform that exists largely on Facebook to share the stories of the missing and murdered persons in Oklahoma, to get their stories out to the people that have been largely forgotten about by the media at large. We also have a website that is oklahomacoldcases.org. On this website, we have a database that contains every cold case in Oklahoma, every missing person, and every unidentified person in Oklahoma that we are currently aware of. This database is free of use, and we encourage everybody to take a look at it because you never know what you might know, and you could bring closure to a family today. Today, though, I'm here on Sirens Podcast to talk about Judith Elwell and Brenda White. Judith Elwell disappeared from Oklahoma City in 1967 when she was 5 years old. She disappeared on July 6, 1967, from just outside of her house in Oklahoma City. She was outside playing with a group of friends. By all accounts, it was a heavily populated area with a bunch of kids outside. It was daylight. She disappeared around 6:30 in the evening, which in July is still pretty daylight outside. And according to her brother, there had been a strange car in the area for some time before she went missing. This car is reported to have been a dark green or black sedan, and he saw it for several days before she went missing, and he saw it again on the day that she did go missing. He went and got his dad, but by the time that they returned outside, the car was gone, and so was Judith. The only thing that was ever found of Judith was a blue shoe that she was reported to have been wearing the day that she went missing, and the shoe was found in a field behind her house. The police would conduct an exhaustive search for the 3 days after she had gone missing. They used helicopters, dogs, volunteers, and they found nothing. And really, by and large, they had no suspects. And then, 2 months later, another girl would go missing from the area. Her name was Brenda White, and she was 6 years old, and she would go missing on August 3rd, 1967. She would go missing from outside a grocery store in nearby Midwest City. She was also last seen in daylight hours, but she was last seen at about 3:30 p.m. Still very much daylight, though. And the last thing that we see of her was a discarded bicycle that she had been seen riding. Although, with Brenda, there were a lot of suspects pretty quickly. And, unfortunately, and you have to feel really bad for him, but Judith Elwell's dad, he even participated in the search for poor little Brenda White. You can only imagine what James Elwell was feeling and going through helping out the White family when his daughter was still missing months later. In November of 1967, Brenda White's remains would be found about 11 miles from her house. They would be found loosely buried in a field next to an abandoned house. She would be identified by a dress that was found in the shallow grave, and the dress was a homemade dress that her mother had apparently made. To this day, Judith Elwell has not been found, and Brenda White's killer hasn't been identified. But I put these two together in this episode for one real reason. From the onset, these two girls have been linked together. Police have always believed that the same person took them, and they even believed that in Texas, another boy possibly had been taken and killed by the same person. But they had no evidence that any of this was true. In 2007, a Lawton private detective would give an interview to a local media source, saying that he thinks that he knows who took Judith and killed Brenda White. He didn't give a name in this interview, but he did say that he thinks it was a suspect that they had all along, and that suspect was a troubled teen who lived at the time in nearby Hera. Was it him? We don't know, because still, today, in 2022, we don't have any closure in these cases, and honestly, the families deserve that. If you happen to have any information about the disappearance of Judith Elwell or the murder of Brenda White, you can contact the Midwest City Police Department at 405-739-1317. My name is Amanda Newland Davis, and I am from Oklahoma Cold Cases. I would also like to take a minute to let you know about our podcast, which is called The Throwaways. It is about the Lawton serial killer, which is a series of unsolved killings considered to be by the same killer, which took place roughly between 1999 and 2003 in Lawton, Oklahoma. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 20 Minute Missing and Murdered. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Join us next time on the Sirens Podcast.
Do we have an outro? That's our outro, isn't it?